Hey, good morning, folks. This is Steve Bradley, God's Wordsmith, and today we want to talk about Jesus and the widow of Nain. This is one of those wonderful little stories that occur many times in Luke. So here it is. This is Luke chapter 7, verses 11 through 17. Now it happened the day after, that is, the day after he healed the centurion's servant, that he went into a city called Nain. And many of his disciples went with him and a large crowd. And when he came near the gate of the city, behold, a dead man was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. And a large crowd from the city was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said to her, Do not weep. Then he came and touched the open coffin, and those who carried him stood still. And he said, Young man, I say to you, arise. So he who was dead sat up and began to speak. And he presented him, that is, Jesus, presented him to his mother. Then fear came upon all, and they glorified God, saying, A great prophet has arisen up among us, and God has visited his people. And this report about him went throughout all Judea and all the surrounding region. Now, I don't think Jesus could have resisted doing this miracle. Here's a woman, and remember what I said about his mom last time, who had lost her boy. Apparently, as her adult son, and she didn't have anybody to take care of her. She was a widow. And so Jesus is probably seeing the future here, realizing again what it would mean to his own mom to watch her firstborn son die as a criminal on a Roman cross. And of course, it wasn't just the sympathy, empathy, and sorrow brought about by his future. It was the reality of the present, and it was deeply touched in the woman who lost her son and who's walking by the coffin, weeping, crying her eyes out. I can tell you, if it had been me, I'd have done the same thing. That is, if I could. I can't, but if I could, I would have. I have prayed for many people, and some who were healed, and some who were not. I believe in divine healing with all my heart, and that's for today. But I know I'm not Jesus. Jesus is unique, and notice I'm using the present tense because he's as alive today as when he walked the face of the earth. And he's also much the same except exalted. He's the same guy who touched the widow's son and raised him from the dead. He did this without fanfare, without excitement. No, watch me do this, see how anointed I am. He just did it. No fanfare. Now, the scene is like this. It says it happened the day after that he went into a city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him, and a large crowd. And when he came near the gate of the city, behold, a dead man was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and a large crowd from the city was with her. Now, this scene is full of people. There's a crowd around, and this is what looks like a chance encounter from the human side. But of course, there's no chance because God ordains every moment in our lives, and specifically in Jesus' life. All of Jesus' meetings were like this, God ordained. And John tells us in his gospel that if every happening with Jesus were recounted, the entire world could not contain all that would be written about him. What amazing words those are. Jesus reacted now, and it's important to know that with Jesus, there are no little people. I don't care how unimportant you think you are not little to him. I don't care if you're a child, if you're not very smart, if you're not strong, if you're not able to do things, if you don't have a great education, if you don't have a good job, if you don't have any job. He doesn't care. There are no little people to Jesus. You're the same to him as the king. You're the same to him as the president. You're just as important, and everyone is important to him. And that's why we see him so often instantly relate to the unnoticed and unimportant. Everyone is somebody to him. So when the Lord saw her, look at how this is said. When the Lord saw her, he just saw this widow. He saw the kid, probably an adult male, and he had compassion on her and he said, "Don't weep." Then he came and touched the open coffin, and those who carried him stood still, because obviously he was a man of authority. People are following him. And then he said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." Oh man, what a beautiful thing. So he who was dead, he who had been dead, sat up and began to speak, and he presented him to his mother. What a wonderful story. And as you may know, touching a dead body, and even the coffin, rendered one ceremonial unclean. Of course, when Jesus touched a dead person, or a leper, same effect, the dead one was no longer dead, the leper was no longer diseased, and the broken were no longer broken. They were all made entirely whole. Jesus is the greatest person ever to live in the history of mankind, and of course, that's just as it should be. So now here is the result. Now, I'm sure you're thinking this was amazing, and the crowd thought so as well. And Luke records this. He says, then fear, that is probably awe, surprise, amazement, and just that kind of wow feeling that you get. And they glorified God, saying, a great prophet has risen up among us, and God has visited his people. And this report about him went throughout all Judea and the surrounding region. Now, notice how quickly the people responded. That's because the healing was not fake. They were completely awed by Jesus' immediate response to this widow and her son and the result of it. Knowing that Jesus is actually aware of what happens when someone dies, and I was thinking about this today, that person is conscious in his death. If you look at Luke 16 and the rich man and Lazarus, and we won't bother to read it, but it's a very important passage, I'm sure that Jesus knew the son would come back with some stories. What happened when he was dead? And it's fun to contemplate because here's a boy who came back, and that boy either had some wonderful stories like, Mom, it's so great there. You wouldn't believe it. You gotta go. We gotta go. We can't miss it. Heaven is great. Dying's not so bad. And of course, he'd want to go back. Or, Mom, I've got to change. It was horrible. I couldn't stand to have you go there. I'm going to fix my life and turn to God. Let's do it together. Trust me, Mom, you really don't want to go to that place. One or the other, because, see, folks, people are conscious after they die. They don't go to sleep until the judgment. They don't have a second chance. They're conscious when they die. And that's what will happen to you and me. We're going to be conscious when we pass into eternity and we are ready to stand before God. So the people around the widow and her son were effusive in their praise of Jesus. But the thing is, folks, they did not understand him. Not at all. And many were just hangers on who never turned to the Lord. This is so important in our life today, in churches today, in common society. There are many people who profess, oh yeah, I believe in God. But do they? Do you? And here's what John says about such people at the end of Jesus' ministry. And this is the final reaction of most of the people who walked around with Jesus, who followed him, who watched his miracles, and who saw what he did. That's, of course, is the opposite of the reaction of the disciples, who from the beginning believed in him. And this happened soon after the triumphal entry that's recorded in the Gospels near the end. So here are John's words from John chapter 12, 37 to 43. John says, "But although he had done so many signs before him, so many miracles, they did not believe in him, that the word of Isaiah the prophet might be fulfilled, which he spoke. Lord, who has believed our report? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed?" Therefore they could not believe, because Isaiah said again, "He has blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts, lest they should see with their eyes, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn, so that I should heal them." Because, of course, the people did not want him. He came to his own, says John earlier in the Gospel, and his own, that is, all of Israel, received him not. But as many as received him, to them he gave the power to become the sons of God. And of course, Isaiah continues. I gave us a little interlude here. These things Isaiah said when he saw his glory and spoke of him. Just think about that. 800 years before Jesus walked the earth, Isaiah saw him. Isn't that amazing? Nevertheless, even among the rulers, that is, the important people in Judea, in Galilee, many believed in him, but because of the Pharisees, they did not confess him, lest they should be put out of the synagogue. And this is the worst condemnation I've ever seen, for they love the praise of men more than the praise of God. How could you do that to the Lord Jesus? Just amazes me. And John concludes this section of his gospel with Jesus' final statement to the public about a relationship with God in John 12, 44 to 50. Then Jesus cried out and said, "He who believes in me believes not in me, but in him who sent me." In other words, when you believe in Jesus, you believe in God. And he who sees me sees him who sent me. When you believe in Jesus and you see him truly, you understand God. I have come as a light into the world, that whoever believes in me should not abide in darkness. What a beautiful saying. And if anyone hears my words and does not believe, I do not judge him. For I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. He who rejects me and does not receive my word has that which judges him. The word that I have spoken will judge him in the last day. For I have not spoken on my own authority, but the Father who sent me gave me a command, what I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his command is everlasting life. Therefore, whatever I speak, just as the Father told me, so I speak. And this is Jesus' final words to the public. Later on, Jesus asks Philip, he says, "Philip, have I been with you so long time and you do not know who I really am? He who has seen me has seen the Father." God bless you guys, and I hope you believe in Jesus with all your heart and follow him with all your soul. And may today be a wonderful day of blessing for you. This is Steve Bradley, God's Wordsmith, signing off for today.